For my comparative study, I chose to explore social realism in film. I'm comparing La Haine by Mathieu Kassovitz and The City of God by Fernando Meirelles. Both films focus on life in communities affected by poverty, racism, and violence, and they use very realistic styles to tell their stories. I picked these films because they show two different parts of the world, Paris and Rio, but the problems the characters face are actually very similar. I wanted to understand how the filmmakers can use realistic techniques and show how social issues connect us emotionally to the people whose lives are very different from our own. N was made in 1995 after years of rising tension in the French suburbs called les banlieues. These areas were mostly home to immigrants and poor working class families. During the 1980s and 90s, police violence was a huge issue, and young people often felt targeted and powerless. Kassovitz had decided to make La Haine after a real event. A teenager named Makome Mbowole was shot by the police while in custody. The film shows how anger and hopelessness can build up when people feel ignored by their government and abused by the system. Kassovitz filmed in black and white to strip away all distractions and only focus on the characters' emotions. This choice also makes Paris look even bleaker, emphasizing how isolated the characters are from the wealthier parts of the city. Through fast, almost documentary-like cinematography and authentic dialogue, Kassovitz creates a film that feels brutally real, showing a side of French society that most movies at the time ignored. City of God, released in 2002, tells the story of life in a favela, a poor, overcrowded neighborhood in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. In the 1960s and 70s, the government pushed poor families into these areas, but provided very few resources like schools, hospitals, or police protection. This neglect allowed gangs to take over, and violence became a daily part of life for kids growing up there. Meirelles based this film on a real novel by Paulo Lins, who actually lived in the City of God. Many of the actors were non-professionals from favelas, which gives the film an incredibly real feeling. Unlike the traditional Hollywood movies about crime, The City of God doesn't glamorize violence. Instead, it shows how kids are forced into crime because they have so few choices. The movie uses bright, sunny colors and quick, energetic editing, which contrasts with the dark reality of what's happening. This style keeps the audience engaged while still hitting hard emotionally. Like Kassovitz, Meirelles wants us to understand that the violence isn't random. It's the result of social and political failure.
Hey, toi t'arrêtes, ok? Parce que tu vas pleurer, c'est sûr. C'est 5 francs pour tout le monde, merde! 100 pour Hubert, c'est normal, on est sur son immeuble.
Moi, c'est une pour la merguez, là?
Ouais, c'est une pour la merguez dans les deux, pardon.
Je sais pas au point.
Oh putain, relou, oh, vous devriez essayer.
Non, putain, et par contre, j'ai 5 francs pour moi.
Tiens.
Vas-y, arrête, ok, d'accord, les gars. Je m'en rappellerai.
Ouais, rappelle-toi, n'oublie jamais.
Vas-y, fais pas l'enculé, fais-moi crédit.
Oh, vas-y, ta soeur, je vais lui faire crédit aussi à ta soeur?
Mais comment tu parles de ma soeur, toi?
Arrête de te prendre au sérieux, pour petit rebeu en carton. Saïd, bâtard, reviens ici tout de suite. Prends la merguez. Saïd.
This rooftop scene, early in La Haine, captures how trapped the main characters Vince, Hubert, and Saïd feel. They hang out aimlessly. Even though they're physically close to Paris, it feels like a different world. The low camera angles and tight framing make it seem like there's no way out. The choice to keep the camera mostly still makes the scene feel boring, just like the characters' lives feel throughout the movie, boring and stuck. This is a perfect example of Kassovitz's use of mise en scène to reflect the emotional reality. The banlieue becomes a physical trap, and the boys' body language, slouched, fidgeting, and frustrated, shows how powerless they feel. Even small moments like this set up the bigger themes of the movie, of anger without an outlet and youth without hope.
Ih, a galinha fugiu. Ó, rapaz, você aí, meu irmão. Pega a galinha, segura a galinha aí, rapaz. Vambora, porra!
In City of God, the opening chicken chase throws us straight into the chaos of the favelas. The editing is extremely fast, using whip pans, jump cuts, and handheld camera shots to create a feeling of total unpredictability. The chicken running for its life mirrors the people living in the favela, always running, always trying to survive. Rocket, our narrator, immediately tells us he doesn't want to be a gangster. Right from the start, the film shows us that violence isn't heroic or exciting. It's terrifying and exhausting. The bright colors and loud samba music in the background create a strange contrast, making the violence feel even more shocking. This mix of style and reality is a huge part of what makes The City of God such a powerful film.
Sans tes copains, tu flippes ta mère. Hein? Tu flanques moi, hein? Qu'est-ce que tu fais là? Regardez là. Regarde.
C'est l'histoire d'une société qui tombe et qui, au fur et à mesure de sa chute, se répète sans cesse pour se rassurer. Jusqu'ici, tout va bien. Jusqu'ici, tout va bien. Jusqu'ici, tout va bien. L'important, c'est pas la chute. C'est l'atterrissage.
Hubert and Vince confront the police. There's no music, just silence, breathing, and tension. The handheld camera slowly moves closer and closer, making the audience feel trapped in the moment with them. When the gunshot finally happens, it cuts to black before we can see what happens, suggesting that the cycle of violence continues endlessly. The slow pacing, use of silence, and sudden cuts are all deliberate choices. Kasovitz wants the audience to reflect on why this violence keeps happening. He doesn't show us the violence itself, he makes us sit with the feeling of loss and inevitability. It's not about one's death, it's about a broken system.
No primeiro assalto, Mané Galinha salvou a vida de um vendedor que o senhor ia matar só de maldade.
Combinou. Que isso? A gente combinou. Ninguém mata ninguém.
Regra.
O bicho tá pegando, minha gente. Quer o dinheiro do patrão. Todo mundo quietinho, abrindo os caixas. Sai. A senhora quer que a gente vá embora, a gente quer ir embora também. É só o dinheiro do patrão. Rapidinho, vamos lá. Sargento dos caixas. Ó, tá demorando essa porra.
Olhando pro chão, hein,
No
porra.
segundo assalto, Cenoura salvou a vida de Mané Galinha. Galinha descobriu que toda regra tem exceção.
Exceção da regra. Vamos lá.
Seu gerente? Isso é um assalto, compadre. Todo mundo no chão! Todo mundo no chão!
Parceiro todo.
Não tô de brincadeira nessa porra não, hein? Primeiro filho da puta que entrar no não vou matar, hein?
No terceiro assalto, a exceção virou regra.
Vem que não tem. Pra virar cinza minha brasa demora. Me chamou papo, nós já vamos embora. Eu nesse embalo vou botar pra quebrar.
In City of God, Knockout Ned's story shows us how easily violence can pull in even those who try to stay clean. At first, Ned is a kind, peaceful guy, but after his family is attacked, he feels like he has no choice but to seek revenge. The editing becomes much faster once he joins the war between the gangs, showing how quickly he loses control of his life. Medeiros uses the cross-cutting to show Ned's downfall, side by side with scenes of the other young boys getting pulled into violence too. This shows that the cycle doesn't end. One generation replaces another. Even people who want to do the right thing are trapped by the environment around them. Like Haine, City of God argues that without major changes to society, violence would keep repeating itself. Both Haine and City of God use real locations, non-professional actors, and realistic cinematography to create emotional, honest portraits of life in marginalized communities. Even though they happen in different countries and cultures, they both show how poverty, racism, and violence traps people in cycles that are almost impossible to break. By focusing on social realism, both Kasovitz and Medeiros make the audience confront realities that are often invisible in the mainstream media. They do it in a way that is both powerful and unforgettable.